with the success that you've had in business, including the failures, I think even more importantly with the failures, we can relate to the fact that you quickly did the OODA loop, right? Like you turned around, you reoriented, and you fired back. And I can't seem to do that very well at home, where I can do it with no problem at work.
I think, honestly, when I really reflect on it quite a bit, and ego, man. I think at the end of the day, we're the king in the castle. I need to be respected. And men, we have that need, right? We don't have a lot of big needs, right? There's a handful, but being respected is like one for what we bring to the family, right? And I think it's real easy to conflate their behavior with disrespect, when in reality, what I'm learning with my children is that their misbehavior with me, the way they mistreat me, is because they trust me enough to let their true feelings out. Where all day long, they're just bottling it up. And when they come home and they're kicking me attitude because I asked them to do something simple, I used to bug out. I still do sometimes. I'm actively working on it every day. It's hard, but I'm like, I just asked you if you wanted a water. Why am I getting like eye rolled and yelled at? I just asked to do something for you. You're still like, why would I want that? It just loses it.
Yeah,
but
I think also
I start to realize they're overwhelmed and we're the safe space.
But
we are their protectors, so they're fine to do that to us because they think we can take it, and they're they can handle it. They let it out.
Yeah, respect also can be a really big idol for men. I mean, and it's again, like, I'm not asking for the action of your love. I'm asking for respect. And I think respect in other people's minds, like for me, I see respect the way I would respect my mother or my stepfather or my uncles or my grandfathers. Like, I would never say or do half the things my girls say or do to me. So it's a comparison of respect and not an actual, like, an idea of what, like, showing them what respect is. It's just me most of the times comparing how I would have treated my parent, versus how they're treating me in there. And so I think there's a delineation that needs to be made there as well. So
we got to calm it down because this is a great conversation. And I want to get this going. I mean, I'm excited for this conversation.
This is a Daughter Podcast where dads come to talk, think, and thrive with your hosts, Oscar and Blandon. Our mission is to cultivate a community of strong, mindful, and present fathers.
We want to curate honest conversations with all men, but especially those who have the honor of raising daughters.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Daughter Podcast. I'm Oscar here. And on the other side, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. It's the end of the week, and we have a fall fest to go to this weekend with the family and the girls. So I'm super excited for the end of the week.
What else are we excited for today?
We're excited for this interview, man, with our new friend, Brian McNally, man. Yeah.
Brian McNally, how are you, man?
I'm doing great.
How's the week been for you?
A little hectic in the McNally household, man.
Yeah?
To be honest with you. We're moving in a couple weeks. Kind of crunch time. We got a lot going on. We're kind of post-hurricane here in Tampa, so clean up at different properties and dealing with insurance adjusters and training full-time. So I'm staying busy. But it's good. Halloween last night was a blast. I got a golf cart, so we were doing golf cart rides with the kids, playing spooky music and all, man. It was a good time.
Well, if you guys don't know Brian McNally, he's got a big repertoire of business successes. I met Brian through Fuel Will Hunt, which we're both pretty passionate about, and Fuel Will Hunt Rice particularly with Joey and Drew. We're not here today to talk about Brian's business prowess because, he would floor us on all of those aspects anyway. What we are here to talk about is Brian, the man, the father, and particularly the father of a daughter. So, Brian, give us some background for you. Let our listeners and viewers know who you are a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of start from the roots, really. Yeah. Born and raised Northeast Philly guy. My dad's a longshoreman, kind of working class kid. Got a little wild in my late teens and decided to just get in a car and drive to Tampa. I ended up going to college down here and really just ended up making a life here. And over the years, got into the staffing industry and just kept kind of seeking out education and growth and worked my way into ultimately starting a business with a partner of mine in 2015. And in 7 quick years, we took it to $50 million a year annually with no outside capital and an exit in 2022. So a couple, as you see, I got some rewards, Inc. 5000, 4 times, Inc. 500. It was an amazing experience, learned a lot. and grew a lot throughout that process. My daughter was 2 when we started the company. So definitely a wild time to just be rolling the dice and doing all that. But so I had to grow a lot as a father, as a leader, as a person, I guess, in order to just survive and thrive in that environment.
2 years old, and you took a plunge.
My wife wasn't working at the time either.
Oh boy, that is the true definition of taking a risk there, sir.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Well, I planned for it though, in a way, right? Like I definitely built my life in advance of that. I didn't know what I was going to do or when, but I had always known that I wanted to take a leap into entrepreneurship at some point.
Yeah.
So what I did in the meantime is I worked really hard to increase my earning. I was in business development, so I just like worked my butt off, whatever I could to earn as much as possible. But then wisely, and also with the help of my very pragmatic wife, we lived below our means while we were doing that. So I'm increasing my revenue, decreasing my expenses, and saving money so that I knew I could take that risk. And I had 1 year saved up. I had 1 year to make it happen, or else it was go back and get a job. So,
gotcha.
Brian, let me ask you this question. You did a lot of preparation for this, I guess you would say calculated risk that you had taken, this strategic risk. How much preparation did you take as a father? And then a girl dad on top of that. What was the prep time like for that?
That's so great. Little to none. I think I still have some unopened books over here on my shelf right here that are like from parenting books. I've read a couple pages. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. Yeah, man. Other than like the real practical stuff like CPR, a couple diaper changing lessons. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. But how to be a father? I don't know. All the books in the world aren't going to get you there. So
that's true. That's true.
So this was 2013, right? Give or take.
She was born in 2013.
2013. So what was Brian like in 2013? Obviously, you're already killing it in business. You're working your butt off. We know you're a hard worker at that point. But mentally, when you're told, "Hey, we're having a child," your wife tells you, like, we have this new human coming into the world. What is your thought there? And then take us through. What was your thought once you found out it was a girl?
Yeah, so excited when I found out we were having a baby because we actually had tried to conceive for a long time, had a lot of challenges, had to do a whole fertility thing. That is a challenging time. It's kind of all consuming and it takes months upon months because everything's a month at a time, right? So pretty exhausting. So actually, in a way, when we found out we were pregnant, it was super excited and like almost a big relief. But also a hint of fear, right? Because we'd been through miscarriages and you're like, oh man, like, please, we just, we need this one, right? We can't handle any more of this pain. Find out I'm having a little girl. Honestly, I was just so happy to be having a healthy child at that point that, I'm a man's man. Like I wanted a little boy and the Lord blessed me with one a few years later, but I didn't really feel disappointed. I know some dads get that way or whatever. I didn't really have that. I was just so excited because I think because of everything we went through, it made me, I guess, treasure it more.
You brought up something that kind of triggered a thought for me. There might be some folks that are disappointed. I think for me, it wasn't disappointment. It was just shock because I just assumed, I don't know why I would, but I just assumed like, well, we're going to have a boy and then I'll just figure that out. But like the whole girl thing for me was a whole flip around the brain to figure out, wait, what? Like, how do we do this? Because I just never thought about that. About having,
in my life, so it was just me and my brother growing up. So just 2 boys. I had a bunch of female cousins, but my mom was our main caretaker. So my dad was around, but he worked a lot. He was in and out. And so really my mom and my grandma, I was raised by really like strong women who were, I don't know, just like kind of manly in how they handled things, right? Not from an aggressive standpoint, but a little more chill than just like, they're very forcing us to be independent was like big for them, right? Kind of stuff. So in my mind, it was just like, hey, just model mom, right? Like she nailed it. If I can just, be a good husband to my wife and just be, they tell you like, be the person you'd want your daughter to date. And so I kind of stuck with that. I don't know, man. I was raised like really independent and brought up early on stuff. So there's some girl stuff that I think freaks dads out.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a commitment early, like before she even came out of the womb, that I would raise my daughter like the same conversation my dad would have with me as a son. There would be nothing off limits. Nothing she couldn't say to me that I would be like, oh, let me get my shotgun. It's dad time. All that stereotypical dad stuff. I just made a commitment that I wasn't going to do that because I had seen dads kind of do that and watched how it pushed their daughters away.
Yeah.
So
fast forward to now, and she's 11.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some progression in Brian since the beginning to now.
Are you like us and have two little rugrats running around at home?
Then you might enjoy our podcast, which is all about parenting with babies and toddlers. Come and join us in our imaginary blanket fort for some conversation. Why should people listen to us?
We're married.
Emma over there is an identical quadruplet, and I'm
You're an only child, and he's generally a bit wacky.
If you want a celebrity or a professional or good advice, then we are not for you. I'm a very involved dad as well, so we have a dad and mum perspective.
It's just nice to have a chat with you, honestly. Like once a week. Quite nice.
Go check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Don't wake the baby.
A lot, man. A lot of bad years. Not bad years, but she's a challenging kid and she's strong-willed. She's a mini me, right? And I'm a handful. I know that, and I think later in life it's going to serve her well. She takes no shit from anybody, including me.
Right.
Right? Like she's not having it, which is great, but it's challenging as a parent, right? Like, so we all want to be respected, and you have this vision. I do all these things for you, and all I'm asking is these very simple things. Right? It's very easy to get frustrated.
Right.
But, so for a long time I was like that, and then with work and the amount I was taking on it from a business perspective, I was always redlined. I mean, all the time, 24/7, weight of the world on my shoulders, and so that led to a lot of, I guess, not being present in the actual interaction. I was there, but I wasn't mentally present a lot. I think my daughter picked up on that. So for a while it was good. She really gravitated towards her mom because I was just kind of checked out, right? Or I'd come into the room and be the authoritative one after she's kind of acting up, right? So that's the only really good interaction I'm having with her, right? Over the years, I realized that a lot of this has nothing to do with me. She's actually needs me to, more than ever, to control my emotions and show her a safe place and model that behavior so she can start to control hers. And that was a big kind of switch that happened for me.
What do you think the catalyst for that one was?
I think just in 2020 is when I really started to take this step. I've been doing pretty good, but in 2020 I lost 50% of our business in 6 weeks because of COVID. So
wow.
My whole life's ambition was going out the window, and I fell back into some bad habits, started drinking, eating more, just being really checked out, frustrated all the time. And they were acting up or whatever, and I just yelled at her like really bad, and I could see it was like upsetting her that I yelled at her. What are you doing? This is a child, first of all. I'm screaming at her like an asshole, and I just hated myself for it, man. I was just like, dude, I mean, nothing crazy, but then most days, but it just felt like I'm like intimidating her, trying to get her to do what I want to do. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And I read, and then that and a bunch of other things in my life, I realized I wasn't being a good leader, right? That's not how you lead anybody, let alone your family. And I was just struggling. So I was kind of falling backwards. And I read Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
And a flip just switched. And it was like, everything starts and ends with me from here on out. There's nothing, my universe comes from my eyes. I'm in control and I need to be better. And I started to seek out resources on how to learn and grow in that area as a parent and as a husband too.
We started talking a little bit before we hit record. If you thought about, and I'm sure you did at some point, like if someone talked to your daughter like that,
smash them,
right?
Instantly,
right away,
done.
It would be an easy answer, and yet we find ourselves sometimes in that situation where, like you mentioned, inadvertently intimidating to get these things done. And yet the thought of like, if if my grown daughter had a boyfriend that talked to her like that, I'd be going to jail, right?
Right.
But it's interesting though. It's interesting because we wouldn't do that anywhere else. Like, you obviously have your businesses. We've all, Blandon, myself, we have jobs. Like, I don't know that the person that I would see act like that at work, I would respect.
Right.
And yet, I'm guilty of being the strong arm at home and thinking that I have to raise my voice. Blandon and I had a conversation about this in an episode past where the raising of my voice made my girls look at me in a certain way that I hated. I hated the look that I got from them when I did that because I felt like an intimidating bully,
Well, I think it's learned, man. I think it's a generational thing that we were raised that way. And so, like, to Blandon's earlier point, kids don't come with a user manual, right? I mean, so what do you fall back on? You fall back on your environment, how you were raised. I grew up in a house with a yeller.
Yep.
Yelled all the time, right? That was how we knew he was serious. So it's like I immediately, when in doubt, I don't know what to do. Boom, hit what I know. Fall back on those hardwired, subconscious kind of reactions.
Yeah,
and that's really what you're doing. You're reacting, and that's reaction is not controlling your emotions. It's not being pragmatic, and not how you would act in business as a leader, right? So part of it is you're in your home, you're comfortable, so your guard's down in that sense, and so it's more easy to react. That's what I find. I still fail at it every once in a while. I've gotten a lot better. My percentage is shrinking daily, right? Still have my moments, but never to that level as much, but still catch myself, too stern or, things like that. And every once in a while, kids need to hear a stern voice, but there's a difference between being stern and screaming. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, Brian, we know that you are a busy businessman. But how do you spend quality time with your daughter? Like, what is something that you and your daughter do, just the two of you? What is that thing? And then, like, how did that come about?
One of the things we do is we just sit in her bed and just BS, man. Just let it out. Like, God, when did it happen? Well, you started when she would want to be like tucked in at night and all that kind of stuff when she was young. And read books, mainly because she didn't want to go to bed. The longer she could keep me there, reading a book or keep me engaged, right? And it was a way for her to stay up. But then it started to be this thing where she would open up and I would get the best stuff, man. Like her first little crush. I got that, not mom. Like that was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just little things like that. So it's kind of like our question time. And it's like this. I learned this from my good buddy, Anthony Zuppo. He has this, I don't know the cadence he does, weekly or monthly or whatever, but he has this moment with each of the kids individually where it's like, dude, this is your get out free card. You can say, like, you're in the lawyer room, you can say whatever you want. This can't be used against you in a court of law. Let's talk, right? Give me everything you got, any crazy question you can think of, the thing that you're most embarrassed, whatever. This is the safest place you're ever going to find. You can say whatever you want. No repercussions. You can tell me you robbed a bank. I'm like, okay. Like, we're going to figure it out. So we started doing that a little bit. I'm just like, hey, what do you got? And she would just start off with asking me silly questions, right? Why is grass green? Just random kid stuff.
Right.
But then it started to get into more like situations at school or this boy here or that, and how do I do this? And that started to be cool because, and that commitment I talked about earlier where like she would ask me about boys and I just like dive in. I'm like, play it like this, look for, and then I can start to model, like, is he nice? I start asking questions like, well, why do you have a crush on him? Right. It's like, well, he's nice and, he's this or that. And I'm like, okay, those are good reasons. And she talks about other boys who you could tell are like the bad boy. And I'm like, those are probably not good reasons, right? But you can have that dialogue. And I think the fact that it's a safe space for her keeps her coming back to want to have those dialogues. So every once in a while, we don't do it all the time now that she's a little older, but like it just happened the other day. She's just like, hey Dad, can we hang a little bit? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we just kind of chill and do that. She started doing competitive cheer too. So I take her to cheer, like one night a week. My wife takes her and just car ride. I think a car ride when they're in like the back seat or whatever, you're not really making eye contact, but just chatting. we take little rides and just catch up. And it's another good time just to chill.
So you're a cheer dad.
Cheer dad officially.
Officially.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an adjustment for me. I didn't realize how serious these people are. I mean, it's a serious thing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, she likes it. Let's do cheer. And I got there like night one at practice, and I was looking at her, and her team is like really good. Like, like the older kids. So these people are hyper cheer dad serious.
Nice.
I'm learning. I'm figuring it out.
You had to cheer down?
No. I'm gonna get a sequin shirt or something soon.
There you go.
There you go.
Part of the initiation.
There you go. Maybe the daughter podcast will make that sequin shirt for you.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Or see daughter there,
or a duffel bag that you care for. Yeah.
There you go.
Rhinestone duffel bag.
Yeah.
That's right.
You can do in jujitsu. Yeah.
There, that's where it's at. That's right. Yeah, well, speaking of which, you are a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yep.
I want to congratulate you on your recently earned blue belt. That's amazing.
Thank you. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
That's a big deal, man. Like,
yeah.
It was a long time coming. I had, I started the last like year and a half of the business. So I was so busy trying to sell a company. That's like 2 full-time jobs in itself.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of myself. I stayed committed. I went once or twice a week, every week. So it took me a really long time to build up and learn. I didn't get to do that immersive thing that I think a lot of guys do. Mm-hmm. And then injuries started coming in, like ACL, just all kinds of stuff. And I kept having to like reset. And I think I'm most proud is that I just stuck with it.
Yeah.
I was committed to making that happen. Finally healthy and able to train enough to pick it up. So
now, are your kids in jiu-jitsu as well?
No, actually. So my daughter, outside of cheer, like I tried to get her into, we played soccer a little bit, and it's Florida, it's hot. And I asked her to go back the next year. You want to play soccer again? She's like, Dad, I don't like the sweat. Fair enough. So, like I see you got unicorns and stuff back there, Blandon, but that's my daughter. I mean, she is, my kids are boy, girl, like all the stereotypes, glitter and unicorns and all that. And then he's like dump trucks and shovels and, guys with guns, right? Like,
there you
go. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I think it's important that I did not think this before with my first daughter. Before I was like, she's not gonna have a choice. She's gonna have to go do jiu-jitsu. She's gonna have to go do this and this and this because I want her to be active and I want her to learn sports and leadership and all the things, right, that we know that these activities provide. In reading and studying and kind of reflecting, I was like, well, actually, if she sees me and her mother do these things, eventually, one, she'll know they're important, right? So even if she doesn't do the thing we're doing, like I like jiu-jitsu, she was doing jiu-jitsu for a while, but even if she doesn't do those things, she'll know to do active, important things that help her be better as a person and physically. So that's kind of the different mindset that I shift. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to force things. What we do is if she does start something, she will get it to completion, right? Like that's just, if she says she's doing something, if she says she's doing something, we'll get her in there and then she's doing it. But I stopped kind of pushing like, no, you will do jiu-jitsu. Because then it's like, especially with kids, I learned real quick, especially when I get my butt kicked all the time. I was like, kids have to have fun. I get jiu-jitsu, right? But if I'm a kid and I'm getting my butt kicked like this is not going to be fun. I've met several instructors that are really good with kids that like I watch them. I'm like, man, you're a saint. Like my child just having fun. They think they're out here just messing around and they're learning these things. So I don't push it, but I do throw nuggets in there for her every so often and see if she wants to keep going.
I talk about it all the time. I'm like, Shay, it'd be really good for you to learn jiu-jitsu. And she just gives me that eye. Like, no. Like, my wife isn't into it either. But my wife wants nothing to do with it either. My son will, probably next year, more scheduling. And we do have it. My gym is awesome. They've got some great kids coaches, huge kids program. They do daycare. Like, just like you're talking about. I walk in there, they're laughing, they're rolling around, they're having a blast. I'm like, this is cool. So, but scheduling-wise, getting him over there when they had the classes didn't make sense. But probably next year we'll do it. I think he's interested in it. But she wants nothing to do with it. So
well, I mean, to be fair, she doesn't like the sweat.
Yeah, like outside. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, not only is it your sweat, but it's someone else's sweat.
For sure.
That's not going to work for her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brian, we want to track this journey between you and your daughter. So in the beginning, was she more of a mama's girl or a daddy's girl? And then like, has that changed over time in your journey? Has she, as you said, you kind of have this question hour, this time where she can just come and ask you things or vent to you. Like, how did that journey begin? I can only speak for me. For me and my girls, they've always, well, my oldest was always a daddy's girl. My youngest kind of started out as a mama's girl. And then after probably when she turned 2, that's when the switch flipped and then she was all mine. So now I find myself a lot of times having to include my wife, you know, like, okay, girls, we can't just do this on our own. We have to include mommy, you know, and I try to make that an intentional effort. So how is it in your household?
Hi, I'm James. I'm a Beaver leader from Dublin in Ireland. Are you searching for creative, engaging ways to get children excited and active and away from screens? Whether you're a teacher, scout leader, forest school leader, or a parent wanting to add some magic to your time with your kids, the Brilliant Beaver Guidebook is just what you need. Packed with fun, nature-inspired activities and ideas, this guide is designed to spark curiosity and keep 6 to 9-year-olds active and entertained. Say goodbye to screen time and hello to meaningful adventures. The Brilliant Beaver Guidebook is designed to help you create memories that will last a lifetime with the children in your care.
Pretty well, ebbs and flows over the years. There was like these stretches early on where I would just look at my wife like, dude, it's all daddy time right now. I'm taking it, right? Just roll with it. But then she would kind of transition out of that. These last couple of years, this 9 to 11, it's been mom.
Okay.
I think she feels, you know, she's growing as a woman and kind of getting into the situation. And I think she's just been gravitating to mom a little bit. But what's interesting about that, when the rubber meets the road and she has something big, she calls dad.
That's good.
Like, I get the, hey dad, can we catch up? And that's when you know something, she needs to really talk about something or she wants to dive deeper and that kind of stuff. But the day in, day out, she kind of gravitates and we take turns, me, my wife, and my son and my daughter, like we take turns just kind of spending an afternoon or whatever, like, you know, like right now, she's down at her grandmother's house, just doing a night with grandma. I'm getting some woman time, and then my son's going to stay here and he gets alone time with us. Right?
Yeah.
Nice. So we do that kind of stuff a lot. We don't necessarily make it big adventures or anything crazy. Just sometimes we'll just go out, get some ice cream or hang out. It doesn't have to be a big event. But just getting that alone time with her, or we'll send my son away and she'll just hang out and watch movies with us. But we do a lot together as a family, except for those kind of planned, like, let's find some time to give them some of their own superstar time, right?
Yeah. And again, those are the best times. Those are the times I remember from my childhood, just the really simple, kind of mundane, not over the top. It wasn't the summer vacations that I remember. Now, I did ride horses, so I did love when I would get off from school and we would trail ride together. But for me, a lot of the time was spent like me and my mom watching movies. That was the best time that I have. And so I kind of recreate that with the girls. They go get their popcorn bowls and we get the, you know, like the popcorn going, the extra butter, or I take them to the movies. I take them to the theater and we sit in the dark, but afterwards, we have something we can talk about. We can have something we can laugh about. We can say, oh, you remember in this part of the movie? And then we have our own like inside joke. So yeah, I understand that family time.
Yeah, movie night's huge for us, man. We love it. And, you know, and just little stuff, man. You know, the thing that you talk about, like where I really win with the kids and have great interactions. I don't, my wife's like, oh, it's going to be messy or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. Let's tear this place apart. Let's build a mega fort and let's sit under there.
There it is. Right? Yeah.
Just stupid stuff, like silly stuff, you know, and just wrestling. Like she's, you know, the two of them, whenever and now that they're older, like it kind of hurts. I'm like, yo, ease up. Forearm shivered me to the jaw. Like, you can't do that anymore. You're 75 pounds. Like, you know, it hurts. And they love it. They get the more I'm hurt, the happier they are. They're just laughing, you know. So I got to ham it up a little bit, right? Yeah. But that kind of stuff, and I've never seen them laugh more and have more fun than we're just being silly. I do silly stuff, man. I got no problem making a fool of myself for my friends. Well, and I'm probably making a fool of myself in general.
Yeah.
So,
You're a girl dad. You have no choice but to make a fool of yourself. I'm like, that is the mantle that we take on. I mean, you have a boy too, so you tell me that. I don't know. I feel like the boy dads are real cool. Like they're just cool, common collective. The boys are trying to be cool, but girls take you outside of your comfort zone and they make you like silly. And
oh yeah. I did something the other night. I don't know. She uses these like kid terms, right? She's like, "Dad, you're so cringe." Cringe and all this skivvities, and I'm like, what is going on right now, right? So
I'm glad I'm not alone. By the way, I'm glad I'm not alone because I'm like, I need a whole different dictionary. I don't know what's going on,
bro. I'm figuring it out. I had to get on Instagram and start. And some cool mom did a whole breakdown. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Definitions are downloaded now. I'm starting to figure it out. But so like. Just, it was so stupid. She's like, "Get out of my room. You're cringy." Right. And I'm like, all right. And it was like a full moon or something. And I don't know why. I was just feeling funny. Like so I waited a minute and then I like snuck back in and I stood up like in this stupid, like my arms on my head. I was like, "I'm the moon cringer." It's like a werewolf, like, but I turned into like a cringe wolf or something. Like, I don't know. And I didn't stop. I did it for like 20 minutes straight. I wouldn't let up on the act. I was just running around her room, like just going crazy. And she was dying laughing. She was like crying. "Dude, you're so cringe. Get out." And I'm like, "No, I'm super cringy,
Yeah. Be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah, exactly. You said it. You get it now, right?
No, that's
that's the stuff that mom doesn't do that. That's me, right? Like that's dad's space. So I think, we always have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When she needs to laugh or pick me up or just wants to talk, I'm there.
The whole cringe and word salad thing that they do, I'm having a hard time with that. What I will say on the acting a fool, I've warned my daughter several times. I'm like, the shorter your shorts or dress gets, the shorter mine gets.
Oh my God.
And she looked at me and I'm like, I'm telling you, like I've got some military clothing that you will not appreciate me walking out in public with. And I kind of hold that over her head, to try to keep her in the decent size of clothing. And so I'm like, what you wear, I can wear. And I've yet to have to hold up my end of the deal, but it might be coming.
They know you're serious.
A
couple moves. They know.
I'm going to be serious. They're not going to like it. We have our whole neighborhood is full of kids her age, girls, boys, and she would die if I went out there in my little short shorts and t-shirt.
Oh yeah, she knows I'd do it too. That's the fun part, though. I mean, but you know what? In a weird way, I think it kind of like knowing that about you, right? I think that helps build trust, right? We talked about earlier about being like the father figure, the one that needs respect and all that kind of stuff. For me as a leader in business, one of the things I always said was like, you got to check your ego at the door. You got to be vulnerable. You got to have some humility to lead a team of people, right? And to me, that's just another form of humility that my child can see. Oh, okay. It's not all about him getting his respect or whatever, right? We're bringing ourselves down and saying, hey, I'm just here to, it's all love, right? And I make mistakes too. And I think the more you can do that, just like with anybody, you start to gain trust.
And that respect, and we had this conversation earlier. That's such a weird word to maneuver through as a father. We talked about a lot of this has to do with how you're raised. Landon mentioned how you are taught to understand the word respect, which is different for different people. But as a father, you think respect is you will respect me, but you just mentioned it. Like you wouldn't do that at work. Right? I mean, at least not if you're a good leader. You wouldn't walk in and be like, "I'm here to lead. You're going to respect me." Like this just doesn't work, right? Like it's
scary that some people actually do that though. Some people will actually do that. Like I'm the boss, I'm the manager, I'm the supervisor. You will. It's like,
well, it's funny you say that because when I said it, Brian laughed because it's comical because you're like, no, you're not. Like if you have to tell me you're the leader, you're probably not the leader, bro.
Right? Exactly.
But I say that because then we get home and that respect, that word respect is different because you're like, you will respect your mother or you won't give me attitude and you won't do this thing. And that ego gets in the way. And I think that's what it is, right? Our egos get a little hurt because the people closest to us, we may feel that they don't respect us in whatever manner. Your daughter gives you attitude or, whatever. But I've been thinking about this more and more, and we were all talking before we hit record that we're willing to do certain things at work that we don't bring home. The good things, right? Like we mentioned, you wouldn't walk in there, Brian. You've been successful in business. I can't imagine you ever walked in to a place and be like, "I'm here, respect me. This is how it goes." Like, it's dumb, right? Like you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And yet we go home and we're tired from work. We gave every good thing at work, and somehow our daughters get a little bit less of us because of that, or something that they say or do. For me, just to put myself out there, like the whole messy thing, that drives me nuts. Like when I cook dinner, I want it to be nice and neat, and the girls want to help, and I'm like, well, but if you help, it's gonna get messy, and it's so dumb to do that because that's time spent. That's things that they will remember. I've gotten better with it, but it's definitely one of my things. And at the same time, I think of like work. I'm like, if one of my folks needed training on something, I'd be like, all right, let's train you. And so I would do that at work. But at home, like, I'm good. Just go ahead and sit there and like do something else. Let me get this done. What I'm getting at is the things that we get real good at. Work, right? You mentioned you read Extreme Ownership. I also read it, and it was switch flipping for me as well. However, for me, it flipped the switch at work. I got a lot better at doing things at work, even though that book is 100% transferable to the home environment and to the leader that you need to be at home with your children and your family. So that was, for me, it took a little bit longer, and I realized that's the turning point. I'm like, I'm doing all these things at work to do better at work, to be a better leader, and I don't transfer them down to home. Here, now we have a problem.
Well, here's the crazy part, right? You probably tell yourself you work so hard for your family.
Right? Yeah.
They don't care. They don't. That's the furthest thing that they care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had this conversation with my wife the other night. She's like, our life's great. She's like, I would have been fine if you didn't do any of that, to be honest. As long as we had a little bit of this and that. I'm just like, oh, well, Craig, now you tell me. It would have been nice to know.
Right?
So I would have did it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll remember that,
Yeah.
But no, the point is I probably would have done it anyway because it was self-gratifying. And I think for me, it's like coming to that realization. I didn't actually do the things I did in business for them. I did it because that's where I find fulfillment in that pursuit and those sort of things. And at home, when you talk about respect, what I think for me, what I realized was I was conflating being valued for what I do for everyone with respect, and they're not the same, right? And when they were acting out, I would call it disrespect, but I think in my heart, I'm like, they don't value me enough, and I think, it's just some deep reflection you got to do sometimes. Like, what's really driving this emotion? Why am I responding this way? What is it, right? That's really triggering me to respond that way. And I think, as men, we want to be valued, right? For what we bring to the tribe, right? I killed a deer, I brought it home, now we can eat, right? That's what work is for us if we're just being cavemen for a minute, right? And I think if you were to bring home a deer and the whole tribe just looked at you and turned away, you wouldn't feel very good about yourself.
You turned around and go get a salad instead.
Yeah.
What the heck, man?
What happened?
But if I do just play a little devil's advocate just a little bit, I also think that, for our children, we're still teaching them, right? So if we go to work with other adults, we would think, okay, maybe you have a foundation. Maybe you have an understanding of all these things. But when it comes to kids, we're still like, hey, I'm teaching you how to present yourself in the world. And so right now you're acting up. And if you act up here, I want to prevent you from acting up in the world. I want to stop that behavior right now. But instead of maybe going about a different way, we raise our voice. The timbre of our voice goes up because it's like, for me, I don't want you behaving like that out in the world. If I go to work with other adults, I'm not going to yell at you because one, you're your own person. Two, you don't necessarily represent me, right? As a person, you represent yourself and the family that you came from. But my daughters, when you leave this house, you represent us. And if you go out there acting like that, that is not a good representation of the family that I have come from and the family that we're building together. And so where it is respect, it's also representation. I think that is the other word that I would say in my household. Like, yeah, I want to be respected and I want you to be respectful, but I also don't want you out here acting a fool and thinking like, man, the first thing that people are like, well, where are their parents? If I see some kid out in the world cutting a fool inside a Target or the mall, I'm like, where's their daddy? I don't think, oh, well, maybe that child is having a bad day or maybe there's something going on. I think, where the heck is their daddy? Where's their mama at? Why aren't they doing something to stop this? And so that's just my little devil's advocate for that situation. I'm not trying to give people a pass or a justification, but I know for me, I'm like, don't do that out in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, like, so I don't have that challenge. So just to frame it a little bit, like the only people that my kids just like act that way towards are me and my wife. Right. They're teachers. We've had conversations like, hey, we're struggling. Like, how are they doing in school? Like, what do you mean? Angel.
Yeah. Right,
like,
right. Same report, by the way. Same report over here. They're angels over here.
So they're tracking. They're hearing the lessons. Right. They know what's going on. And what I was trying to say earlier, I think a little bit is because they want to do that all day when they're out in the world.
Right.
It's building up.
Yeah.
And when they come home, it's like, boom, just dump the emotions out. We've been carrying this backpack all. I just want to drop this on somebody, and I guess I'm here to catch it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, you gotta set that example. You can't. I think there's a fine line between kind of the evolution of parenting as we learn more and we kind of start to think about it in different terms than we used to. It's always apparent when like the grandparents are around.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Like, where's your belt? Just straighten this out. I'm like, what do you mean? Go get a switch. Like, we're not doing that anymore.
Mine is the polar opposite. Mine is the polar opposite. It's like, don't treat her like that. Don't talk to them like that. I'm like, where were you? Where were you when I was?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Where was that at? But like what I'm trying to do and continue to try and get better at is imparting those same things just in a different delivery. So minor example, the other day, day before Halloween, my son, I was like, yeah, but you can go have a piece of candy. And I trusted him to go in, take it, and come back out. Well, he ran upstairs, and I'm like, that don't smell right. You had no reason to go back up, right? So I wait a little bit. I set him up because, I'm smarter than him. He's a child. I can track him. I walk up, and I walk up behind him. He has no idea I'm there. I'm like, hey, buddy. And he's just like,
Yep.
And he's got like 4 pieces of candy in his hand, right? And he's already got one in his mouth.
Yeah.
What happened to the 1 piece of candy? And, and I could have very easily like got on him like, dude, you lied to me. You hurt my trust, all this kind of stuff. And in the past, I probably would have yelled at him a little bit. And like, hey, man, this is not okay. Like really laid into him just to kind of be emphatic as to, dude, that's lying. We don't do that in this house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was fresh off of, it was really cool if I could make a recommendation to another podcast, Parenting podcast. And he's got a website and stuff. All about being it's super cool. A lot of the stuff I've learned and grown from this guy. He had a kid, and him and his kid were like battling, and his son's actually involved in like helping people and stuff too.
Gotcha.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I just listened to one, and it talked about like, hey, when you catch yourself, like hey, I just do a little thing where I just feel like kind of like squeeze my fingers. I'm just kind of like, hey, wake up. Like you're about to pop,
okay.
Right. And I take a minute and be like, all right. And so in this case, just acknowledge it. And instead of the normal thing, I said, come here, man, let's sit down. Give me the candy. I took the candy and we sat down. And I said exactly what you said.
Yeah.
What's your last name?
Right.
Yeah. We don't lie. It's like that name means something.
Yeah.
You worked hard to get, you know what I mean? That name means something. When you're out there in the world, it's going to precede you. And you can't, that's not how we're going to act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't until like a day or two later, I was like, so you know what you did wrong? Like, we're good, right? You understand why this is important? I said, yeah. And a couple of days later, I questioned them some more about it. I think sometimes we just got to find that we can teach, but if you're fired up and they're fired up, nobody's learning. Yeah. Nobody's learning anyway. So what are we doing? We're just going into the wind. It's not happening.
Right.
Yeah. So literally, it was like the next day we were talking. I'm like, hey, buddy, like, why'd you try and lie to me? I was scared I was going to get in trouble. Because I prompted him with that. I was like, you were scared you were going to get in trouble, so you tried to lie, right? I was like, dude, it's natural. That's everyone. That's going to be your natural reaction. That's cool. That's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
But here's why, right? And it just totally changed how he responded. And he was actually able to take in the lesson 24 hours later. No harm, no foul, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we made it further because I was able to take time, address the situation, an environment where he was cool. We were hanging out, we're driving, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why you did that? He's like, yeah. It's a little easier for him to do that.
Mm.
Yeah, you guys were able to think through that before reacting, like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a hard thing. We just talked about honesty in one of our last episodes and eroding that and thinking through that where, you know, I've told my daughter several times, you could get in trouble for something, but you're definitely going to get in trouble for lying. Like this is not going to happen.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, you could have got like mid-level trouble, maybe even lower for the act of whatever, but the lie was going to bring you up to here. Like that's,
we're going to kick it up a notch.
Right. Now, the key there, to your point, is holding that standard, but doing it in a different manner. Because a lot of times for me, the first thing is, are you kidding me right now? Like that's my first thing. Like, are you serious? Like after what we just talked about, and my levels raised up, and it's just not. It doesn't go well, right? And
nobody's listening.
Yeah, and then to top it off, it may be at the end of the day they've been in school, they've been holding themselves together normally, like we expect them to. And then just like any little bit just sets them off too. So now we just have this whole, this whole mess of emotions flying around. It's completely and utterly ineffective.
But to that point though, right? Like I talked about earlier, how it's like dads come home from work and it's okay for dad to come home and be like, clean this up, let out, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, these kids have been in school for 8 hours and basically in prison for 8 hours. School's no fun.
Not kidding,
you know? And then they get out, and it's like we expect them to come home and be good little soldiers.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, I just want to chill out. Like, you got me, I just been locked up for 8 hours. I'm like, okay. I'll give you an hour to walk around the yard, see some sunlight.
More prison time.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's weird. It took me forever. It's just somewhat of a recent development. I've been getting better and better at it, but taking the time just to be a little more empathetic.
Yeah.
Right? And I think empathy is another thing, a good characteristic to have as a leader. You have to be able to understand what people are going through. I think so many times as parents, it's just like we kind of look at our kids like they're a widget.
Yeah.
I'm grooming you. I'm making you go, I'm setting the course and you just need to follow and I got this. Right. Yeah. They got plans of their own. They're individuals. They're people.
Right.
And we all have different personalities and all that stuff. And it's like the more I lean into that, the more trust I think gets built.
Yeah.
And I think another thing they do, to be honest, once you fail a bunch, they push you to see how far, when you're going to fail again. And the few times where like they were just awful and I held it together. I held the line. I stayed calm and we worked it. And I felt really proud of myself within like 24 hours or even just a couple hours later or something. They came to me, gave me an amazing apology. You know what I mean? When they were in a position to actually be able to do it. And so was I, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of crazy to say, you almost have to earn that by being able to keep your emotions in check. Because we're the parent, they're the kids. They're supposed to lose emotion and be unruly, right? We are not. And the more I see myself actually being able to hold it together and model that, I always see an improvement in my relationship. His education, the energy level in the house, instead of that frantic anxiety level. Like right now, we're moving, we got a lot going on. Yeah. You feel it. If there was like a meter on the wall, it's like, it's about to pop, So it's, one of the things I did, and this is great, like this is the position I've been able to put myself in, which was awesome, right? When I talk about having freedom and fulfillment in your life. I noticed some of this is because I started writing a book. I was doing all these other things. I had a lot going on and it was taking away time.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm falling into that same old habit. And so I shut that stuff down for now. I'm just like, I'm doubling down on dad time, like reining in these relationships, reining myself in, like really tightening things up.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, Blandon, we're always worried about our job. Like number one job is home.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
And I would venture to say, especially nowadays,
right,
the father's job at home is so important, done correctly, right? Done. I say correctly. We know that there's just so many different equations to this whole thing because every child is different. So not saying there's one correct way, but done intentionally, done mindfully, that's what we're talking about. That's the community that Blandon and I are working to build, is that mindful, present father that's there, that just like you're mentioning, is purposeful about the time. And that's something that we all struggle with, right? We work all day, we get home, we're tired. We forget that our kids have also been working all day doing their schoolwork. And, one thing I really harp on myself on is how much I forget that it's not just the school and the keeping your manners because you got teachers that tell you what to do and whatnot, but they're maneuvering through all these different growing pains, right? Like social,
all for the first time,
right?
A lot of times it's brand new for them, right?
Yeah. So all those emotions that we do get at home, and I'm telling you, this is such a work in progress for me. Is just trying to remember how much my 12-year-old, for example, puts up with not just the school part, but the social environment that she's in, and comes home and is just kind of pent up with all these things, right? Because we want them to do good. Her and I will talk. I'm like, if you got a jerk kid trying to do whatever, keep your cool, do this thing, do that thing. And so you're hoping that they do that. But just to your point, that takes all this capital in them, this energy that is spent. And I forget about that as I come home and I'm energied out. And then, like you say, you start firing away. Why isn't this done? Why are your chores done? And what are you doing later? Right. I mean, it hits right in the nose for me. It's exactly that, is forgetting that they are also little humans, and not just 12, but we got, Blandon's got his 8-year-old and I have an 8-year-old, and they're also managing through this whole thing, like you mentioned, all for the first time. They haven't been 8 years old in 20 days before. Like this is it. They're there. Whereas we're at work. I mean, sometimes work is as mundane as it is. Like you just go and you do your work. So something that is very important for you to bring up, and I appreciate you doing that, because it gives me a check mark for myself, right? Hey, check yourself and remember that these humans are also tapped out at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, the other thing too is you do consulting now.
Yeah.
And I have to assume a lot of that is from your personal growth into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So my focus is mainly on entrepreneurs, executives, folks who want to be better in all aspects of their life. Because I felt like I was really unbalanced at times in my life, and we've talked about the journey I'm on, and it's never ending, right? I'm always seeking to improve and grow and get better. But I feel like I've reached a really strong point of success in like business, personal, from a health perspective. I was really out of shape at one point, and kind of fixed all that, and had poor relationships with my family and my wife. And I figured out a way to like balance all that to a degree. And some things I think, we get so focused on achieving that we neglect what's going on. We keep telling ourselves like, well, once I do this, then I'll come back and I'll fix those issues. And what I realized in 2020 was like, I can't wait any longer. I got to get better at all of it, and I got to do it now. That's where I'm trying to work on, folks. I mean, I can certainly do X's and O's of people's business and stuff. I really don't want to do that all day long. I just have no desire to do it. Yeah. My goal is to help executives, obviously, with portions of that. But really, I want to help people be better leaders, not just at work, but in their life, at home, in their communities, and things like that. So that's what I want to work with people on holistically. So if there's people out there looking for that level of support and kind of want to take things to the next level, or they're stuck or they're unhappy, BrianMcNally.com. All the info's on there. I'd love to hear from them.
Awesome.
That's great.
Is all your social media stuff on that same site?
Yeah, it's the Brian McNally on Instagram, but it's all on there.
We'll add those down to the show notes, and you can find Brian for your consulting needs. And also, he's a cool dude, so give him a holler anyway.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Hey, Brian, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on here and sharing your story and your experience as a father with us.
My pleasure, guys. I mean, we need more of this. You guys are doing a great service to the world. Honestly, I really do believe that it's important. And any environment where men can actually share their feelings and not in a blubbering way, but just being real. Right. And I think that's real strength, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Talk about all the manly stuff, but real strength is being able to be vulnerable, talk about your challenges, but then come together as a community.
Yeah.
For the betterment of us and our children.
Yeah.
And it's a worthy cause, man. I'm happy to do it all day. And I've learned a lot from being here with you guys. So I really enjoyed it.
Blandon, you have anything else for us, sir?
Again, just a big thank you to Brian for being here with us and just being open and honest and being willing to share your journey as a overall father, but also with your daughter. I think it's really important that we hear men's stories, father stories, and especially those guys who have shared some great success in business, like what keeps you going. And that family part is a huge aspect of that. So thank you for being willing to share that with us today.
Well, you guys can find us at www.daughterpodcast.com. We have all of our stuff on there as well. We'll have all the links down in the show notes for you guys. Also, you can find the send us a text link in the bottom of this video and on the audio. As always, thank you all for your support. Thank you for your ears, your eyes, and we hope that we are bringing the value to you as a father of daughters. Until the next time, Oscar here, Brian on his side, and Blandon over on his side. Thanks again.